Imagine standing in a crowd of thousands all facing one person. No election happened. No constitution was written. No country in any modern sense even existed yet. And still, every single person around you bows. How does that happen? Who decided one person gets to stand above everyone else? For most of human history, nobody bowed to anyone. Small hunter-gatherer bands had no kings, no formal leaders, no permanent hierarchy at all. Decisions were shared. Authority was earned through skill or wisdom. Then it evaporated the moment it stopped being useful. So how did humanity go from that, total equality, to entire crowds kneeling before a single ruler? The answer has almost nothing to do with countries, and almost everything to do with food. Archaeologist Brian Hayden has spent decades studying what he calls aggrandizers, ambitious individuals within early communities who used surplus resources not to survive, but to gain influence. Hayden's research focuses heavily on feasting. In small farming communities that began producing more food than they immediately needed, certain individuals started hosting elaborate feasts, generous, memorable, and strategically timed. On the surface, this looked like generosity. Underneath, it was something closer to an investment. Think about what a feast actually creates. Full stomachs? Yes, but also debt, social debt. If someone throws a lavish feast for your entire village, you feel obligated to reciprocate, to show loyalty, to support that person when they need something later. Multiply that across dozens of feasts, hundreds of guests, and years of careful timing, and something remarkable happens. Influence stops being temporary. It becomes structural. That is the seed of a hierarchy that had never existed before. But feasting alone could not create a king. Something environmental had to happen first. Agriculture, once it took hold roughly 10,000 years ago, fundamentally changed how humans related to land and food. Hunter-gatherers could walk away from conflict, from bad leadership, from an unfair arrangement, simply by moving somewhere else. Farmers could not. Once you have planted crops and invested months of labor into a specific patch of land, walking away means losing everything. Anthropologist Timothy Earle has extensively studied how this shift toward permanent settlement created the conditions for chiefdoms to emerge. According to Earle's research, once populations became tied to fixed land, they also became vulnerable in a new way. Raiders could target stored grain. Rival groups could seize fertile territory. Suddenly, physical defense became essential for survival. Defense requires organization. Organization requires someone making fast decisions during crisis. And the person who proved reliable during one crisis often kept that authority long after the danger passed. This is where something crucial shifts. Authority that once had to be earned repeatedly started becoming assumed, expected, permanent. Archaeologists Flannery and Joyce in their extensive research on the origins of inequality across early human societies, documented a pattern that shows up again and again across completely unrelated cultures, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica to early China. Once a leadership role became associated with managing surplus grain, coordinating defense, and settling disputes over land, that role rarely stayed temporary. It calcified. It became something people were born into rather than something they earned. That single shift, from earned authority to inherited authority, is arguably the exact moment kingship, as you understand it, was born. But raw power alone rarely holds a crowd's loyalty for long. Something else had to reinforce it, something that made questioning the ruler feel almost unthinkable. Religion did that work. Across dozens of early civilizations, rulers began claiming a direct connection to gods, ancestors, or cosmic order itself. In ancient Mesopotamia, kings were often described as chosen by the gods to maintain balance between heaven and earth. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs were considered divine themselves, a living link between mortals and gods. If a king's authority came from the gods, then questioning the king meant questioning the entire cosmic order, a far more dangerous thing to challenge than a mere human being with a spear. Practical authority, born from feast debt and crisis management, fused with something people were terrified to question: divine will. That combination is remarkably durable. It does not need constant proof, it simply needs to be believed. There is one more piece to this puzzle: inheritance. As long as leadership had to be earned by each new generation, hierarchy remained somewhat unstable. But once power began passing directly from parent to child, kingship stopped being a role a person occupied. It became a birthright, something that existed independently of whether the person holding it had actually earned anyone's trust. This is precisely why early kings appeared long before anything resembling a modern country existed.